Welcome to the Feelgood Factor podcast. Now, please welcome your host, Dom Watterson.
All right, welcome to this Feel Good Factor podcast brought to you by Health Bunker. This is number 6, I do believe. Might be number 7, but who cares? We'll move on. And today I'm joined by someone who got in touch with me a few weeks ago. I actually lost track of the product that this chap sells, and it's Michael Upstone from keephealthresearch.org. I've got that right, haven't I, Michael?
Yes, that's right, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to be talking about frequency and energy healing and products that can help you, I suppose, manage certain illnesses and chronic conditions.
Resolve them even. Yeah, at home.
At home. And specifically scalar frequencies. Yeah. And I've been using on and off a system that uses scalar, actually, and it's called quantum lasers. And I've been using that since about 2010. I'll send you over some details. You might have seen them. It's not specifically like the one that we're going to be talking about today, though. Yours is the sort of real deal on that scalar technology. Mine's more of a Rife frequency technology. So I think that there is slight differences, isn't there?
Yeah, and there's so many things in this area now. The area is just going absolutely bonkers, actually. So, being able to work out what we're dealing with and what it does and all the rest of it is becoming more and more of a problem for people.
Mm. Yeah, and also, I mean, these devices sadly aren't giveaway prices, are they, for people to buy? I'm not saying it, but they are. So you're caught in this mire of right, which one's going to work? Because generally people are buying them not when they're well and fitting well, they're buying them when they're ill, so that they're confused. Like I was when I was ill in the mid 2010s. You don't know. I was doing all this research, but you still don't know whether to stick or twist on certain things.
Yeah, exactly, mate. And even, with the best devices around, no one, I think, sensible or honest or real about it is able to say this cures 100% of things. So, and in fact, it's such a complex area that I ended up, being sort of concerned about like the memes propagated on Facebook and things like that. So I published 2 books on this last year. The first one, called Frequency Healing on Amazon. Well, they both ended up as sort of multiple number 1 bestsellers, thankfully. But the first one really deals with what kind of results can you expect? And people need pictures, evidence, x-rays, things like that. So we've got that there. And differentiating as well between energy healing and regeneration. So then we go into, well, what kit's available? What are the differences? What are the right questions to ask? Because even if you've got the best kit in the world, you need to know how to use it. You need proper training and support and stuff like that. And this is sort of all off the back of Keep Health, which is a non-profit organization. So we're basically here to give free information to the public, to support the public, but also to support members as a private members association with the equipment, with the training, with the support and stuff like that. So the first book is all about, what's available and the right questions to ask. Because, even if something's cheaper, if it doesn't work for you, you've just flushed your money down the pan. And the next one really, the next book follows on from that, trying to sort of fill in the gaps because I would say with our kit, so we specialize in electrical adaptive stimulators from the Russian space program. And these things are so highly tuned. They have such a vast array of frequencies, all human harmonics, such accurate feedback that they have to be built in a satellite factory, actually, in Russia. But
Those
more than that,
pesky Russians,
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
with all the knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they sort of so this all comes from their space program, and the problem there is if you're taking pills and potions in space, A, you need a medicine cabinet, B, the water gets recycled, C, everyone ends up taking the pills, unless you've got a bigger, heavier machine to remove that contamination, and all of that means cost. So they stuck the equivalent of about $5 billion over a decade, and 1,000 of their top. Um, Biophysicists, doctors, engineers, etc., onto this program to develop space medicine technologies. So the scalar popped out of that, and then the kind of kit that we specialize in has been subject to continuous development ever since for 40 odd years now. But more than that, we look at sort of integrating other equipment, which is different and sort of enhances by using different approaches to the body. But even then, we can only say, and we deal with some difficult stuff, so things like uh, uh, multiple chronic illnesses, potentially terminal stuff in some cases and things like that, what doctors would describe as non-functional situations. The problem with this kit is actually a lot of them are functional situations, providing you're using a regenerative approach. So there's a grey area and we don't know this, but broadly we can say, between about 85 and 95% of the cases, we can get results. We can often get immediate results, even with chronic illnesses and stuff like that. But then that really changes our focus to, okay, what else is happening in this other 5 to 15% of cases? And that then led to the second book, Energy Healing, which is all about, free or dirt cheap stuff you can do at home, which can sometimes have just radical improvements on the body anyway. So we're kind of playing a game of Cluedo. The body's very, very complex. No one really understands everything about it. And we're trying to identify and eliminate the main suspects in the room, if you like, to support the overall healing approach. So I guess in a nutshell, that's what we sort of deal with, if you like.
Yeah, and my experience with different frequency devices, like you've got the bioresonance devices, you've got like the Rife devices, which is sort of the same thing. I've got the when I call them lasers, it's light frequencies that it uses. And what I notice with a lot of these devices, you generally notice quick changes. If it's going to work, it could be basically you've got the right frequency. Is that same with the scanner
Um,
devices?
So the scalar has the original scalar has four different frequencies in it, and it's an absolutely excellent home energy healing device. So it's brilliant on pain, on injuries, even old injuries, rapid repair, inflammation, things like that. But it's generally not something we would recommend as a regenerative device. So what's regeneration? Regeneration is when you pile more feedback in, more frequencies, and actually the body is able to undo an illness, an injury, or even an emotional trauma, actually, as if it never happened in the first place. So practically what that means is if you're unlucky enough to have a heart attack, you end up with a scar on the heart, and that means you've got dysfunctional areas on the heart. So it's a drag factor on the heart and on the whole body. But with stimulation through regenerative technologies, and there's a number of different types effectively, then your body is able to restore itself as if that never happened in the first place, and the scarring is undone. So this is where, sort of the next generation technology came in, which was called the cosmodic, which added to scalar effectively. So that used, I think it was 46 simultaneous biofeedback loops and a whole load more frequencies. And it works in a very different way from the scalar. So the scalar was like rapid healing. The sergeant major kicking the door in at 5:30 in the morning, screaming at the height of his lungs, very, very close to your face, get the hell out of bed and heal yourself. Whereas this was much more like, a mother going to a child and putting the hand on the shoulder, going, "Wake up, dear. It's time to get up and get ready for school." So it's a much softer, but also deeper approach that was being applied with the regenerative technology. But the problem was it didn't have that like immediate impact on pain and other issues that Scanar did. So the developers simply put them both together as modes in the same device, but also cunningly put in a feedback mechanism so the body can actually choose which one it wants, which combination, how much, and it can fluctuate that during the treatment, as well as the amount of energy that the body wants as well. But ultimately, as well, the body also says, hey, you've made a difference, which we would call an adaptive reaction. You can stop now, or you can take it to the maximum because you don't want to go over the top with this stuff. Otherwise, you've got problems that arise. In fact, in healing, all frequency healing modalities. So after that, they added two more modes, so ENS and Cosmotic Plus, and then you end up with something like this. Do you want me to show you this, mate?
Yeah, you can show that. I'll try and get on the screen as we're talking about this, some of
Okay.
the equipment, and then people can see where it is.
Yeah. So if I just put this on my body, it should automatically recognize that it's connected, switch itself on, and start to treat straight away. And what you see is that sort of, oh yeah, it's already switched with those green sort of circles in the middle, saying it wants two modes in particular at the moment. And then it is just automatically treating the body and it will fluctuate through the treatment program and then tell us when it's made a difference. So that's, potentially how simple and intuitive these things are, which is stick it on the point of pain. Where we go a lot further is how to treat the whole body, how to stimulate specific points, and integrating this kit with other stuff. And especially with chronic illnesses, it's not that straightforward. We really need to think about the whole body as a system and treat it on that basis. So that's where the sort of the training comes in effectively.
Yeah, one thing when I was having the treatments going back, 2017, I think it was 2018, using that's probably a later version of the one that I was using going back all that time. Probably been a
Yeah.
couple more out actually, but I could remember it, the frequencies altering as it was sort of the program was running. It was
Yeah.
pretty amazing to watch, and you could actually feel it, especially on your spine and things like that, and your nervous system.
Yeah, and you can even feel it actually traveling around your body
Yeah.
as well, especially if you're in a quiet place. So you can just have it stuck, wherever it is, maybe on an arm or something,
Mm.
and you can feel these tingles moving through your whole system, which is quite amazing, really. But the power of the results is unbelievable from these things. I think I had one of my, certainly close to a record recently, which was I think a woman's back issue was resolved in I think it was 63 seconds of treatment with this device, and that was actually on her arm. But generally, we expect, very, very good results. But the beauty is, it's sort of this largely automated process that we're employing. Our job as effectively as therapists, apart from getting out of the road and letting the device have the conversation with the body, is to find the best places to treat to get the best results.
So these can be used by an untrained person, can't they? Am I right there? Or do they need to go through training to use it?
Training's desirable, but it's not essential. There are some contraindications which are all relative because these things have developed such a lot since the 1980s Russian space medicine program. Um, so, there's very, very few relative contraindications, and that means there's no absolute contraindications. But this is where the training does help to significantly improve the results. And we have had a few people come to us who ended up, buying devices from other places and not being happy with the training and support, and then paying effectively, separately for our training and support package. And the way we approach that is that that's all included in the top end devices, and then the devices can change, they can get updated. And I hate this principle of going back and saying, we need more money from people. So we just, yeah, I detest that kind of stuff. So basically, we just say, all right, the training's included for life. It will be updated as the devices are updated. There's also personal support, which is effectively unlimited, and there's there's group calls every month as well. So we're trying to sort of focus on the best quality and the best support for people, because obviously it's very important for us as well that everyone gets the results out of them. And the thing is, some of our users, as you sort of started off by saying, Tom, they can be very sick people, they can be old people, they can be vulnerable, they can have brain fog, they might be under enormous stress of treating, a loved one who's very close to them and things like that. And they need to feel that they can use it correctly first time. And when they start getting the results, hopefully immediately or very quickly, then they get confidence in the device and in themselves as well. And we think that that's a really sort of critical part of, applying these technologies correctly.
Yeah. Do you have obviously when people want to buy one of these things, which is what I generally do, I'll go and try them somewhere, or you might be able to rent them, and you use them for a while. Is there other practitioners that you can go and utilize, in the UK for people?
Yeah, most of them tend to be private users. So about two-thirds, I would guess, of the people who are members of our organization, because everyone who buys, equipment becomes a member, um, are, effectively home users. Some are doctors, but they don't necessarily treat other people with them. And then the rest of the group would really be clinicians and doctors. So there's a small sort of group of people. And then the other thing is because the technology is still developing, this device that I just showed you, this was released in only in December
Right.
of last year. So, relatively few people have that. But I also come over and I talk to groups and I give people experiences. In fact, the normal thing is three of the best. So experiencing this, but also a soft laser that we use and brain training equipment, which is also phenomenal. If you have a look in the front of the Read sample section of frequency healing on Amazon, you'll see some absolutely amazing photographs of, results that have happened in minutes with people. And so that really sort of sets the benchmark for how good this kit can be. So yeah, basically I can come over and I can talk to groups and then normally, I can actually give four people this experience with three of the best kit in half an hour or something like that. So that would be a pretty good sort of way of experiencing it, as well as seeing the results on other people in
I,
a
I,
group.
I am actually contemplating doing a expo up here in the north of England at some point. So that might be an interesting one. Um,
Mate, you can. Some people will tell. I think you can that I'm a northerner as well, and
yeah.
I would love to get back up there. And apart from anything else, I'm missing decent beer over here. So, but yeah, I'd love to do that. Absolutely, I
Yeah.
love talking to groups and giving them experiences of the kit and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know if you know this, but Health Bunker is a clinic. That's what it actually is. Health Bunker.
yeah,
We do ozone therapies and
cool.
high dose vitamin C therapies as well for people with chronic illnesses. But we also got infrared saunas and things like that.
Ooh,
Behind me
nice.
there, you'll see that bed in the sunbed. It's a red light bed, is that?
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
and the wooden box is an infrared sauna.
Yeah.
But these are at home actually, not in the clinic. But yeah,
Wow.
so we've got three nurses that work there. So we're always looking for additional treatments that can help people. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
this is where the different stuff, combining it together, intelligently, just could produce unbelievably or crazy results, really, that are very difficult for
mm,
people to believe, actually. So this is why you've got to see the pictures and the X-rays and the
yeah,
timestamps and stuff.
yeah.
Otherwise, it's just, why hasn't everyone heard of this kind of thing?
Obviously I can get the videos, can't I? And play them as we're talking about this. I can play them in the background with no sound on, so at least people can see. Then I'll put the sort of like a cut of the videos on at the end of our chat today, so for people to watch as well.
Yeah, mate. In fact, we got a document on our training as well.
Mm.
And this has been, an epic to make it. But basically, there's two free videos on there and on our website as well. So, if you want to, if you feel free, if you want to distribute that to anyone who's interested as well, then you'd be very welcome to do that.
Yeah, great. So um, there was another question. My brain's gone blank there. Can you explain what the frequencies are? What an actual scalar wave is, and just for people out there in a way that they can understand.
Right. So this is where there's a lot of very misleading sort of language to do with the area, and this is something I go through in the first book. So the first thing is we need to differentiate between scalar and scalar.
Yeah, I'm
So
getting them mixed up
scalar,
as well. Scalar. My machine uses scalar, and yours
yeah,
is a scalar. Yeah,
yeah, that's right. Well, even then, that's also unclear. So scalar is, an electrical device which connects to the skin directly through electrodes on the back, like this one, or alternatively through leads and pads and probes and things like that. And that has specific frequencies in it, um, which stimulate a sort of a variety of healing effects. So this is principle number one is actually, if you keep playing the same frequency into the body, then it's like saying, Dom, I know you love Christmas dinner, but you're now going to have it morning, noon, and night for the next 3 weeks. You're going to get sick of it.
yeah,
And that's called tolerance. So the body switches off to that. The next thing then is, so SCANAR is an acronym, which is self-controlled, energo, so energy, neural, adaptive regulator. So it's helping to send in frequencies to the body, using the body's own frequencies, its own language effectively, and its own energy for healing. And the way I equate it to is like this. It's kind of like a music teacher saying, play this note, uh, play it again, no, play it again. That's right. Now play this note. So in the process, what we're doing is we're improving the adaptive reactions of the body. So if you think about it, you know those old Laurel and Hardy films. Stan Laurel's got the plank over his shoulder. He turns over, it smacks Oliver Hardy on the back of his head. First reaction is "Doo," and then he turns around and he's angry. Another proper reaction, probably an improper reaction, maybe at this stage, but he pokes him in the eye. Well, Stan Laurel now, feels pain. Now he turns around and he pokes Oliver Hardy in the eye. So we're looking at sort of proper reactions for proper stimulation, if you like. So we also want to know that those notes are played, efficiently. So as we go through adding more programs, effectively it's like saying, "We'll play this piece of music." Well, that's okay. Now play it faster. Well, now we want to bring in the whole band kind of thing and get the whole nervous system involved, tuned and modulated. And eventually it's like tuning up a whole orchestra. And as we step through these progressions, this is stimulating these, regenerative processes in the body. Things that are visible, in fact, on the skin in terms of things like wrinkles in as little as 25 minutes. So that's Scanar, and that's where it's developed to in terms of adding on these extra modalities of Cosmotic ENS and Cosmotic Plus. Now, when we look at scalar, the problem is there's two different definitions of scalar. So scalar, on the one hand, is like dropping two pebbles into a pond where the ripples go outwards and head into the middle and then create something called a standing wave or a lateral wave, which goes off in the opposite 90 degrees and is generally acknowledged to be like a stronger wave going deeper into the body. But there's another definition of scalar, which is a quantum effect, which is a field effect. And the problem is then that the developers and the manufacturers aren't always very clear about what we're dealing with and how it's supposed to work. And we end up with some strange anomalies like people buying great big sort of light units which are supposed to be scalar, and then okay, well, we know from the lasers that we use that the light's actually absorbed by the body, and these aren't laser-based systems. So are we getting a scalar effect by these waves meeting in the middle and going straight down into the body? Or is it more about a field effect? If it's a field effect, then it should be quantum, it should be everywhere. In which case, if we're sitting someone in the middle there with typhoid, for example, why isn't everyone in the world being cured of typhoid? So the problem is that there's, some fairly decent questions that we can ask. We know this kit works, but how we're looking at it then determines, how well it will work and an exact description of the effects. So this is a sort of classic area where the language is, still not very clear, and we end up with a lot of sort of marketing jargon involved and memes and buzzwords and stuff like that, which also, frankly, gets on my tits a bit.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those ones, isn't it, where, like you said at the beginning, if something works for you, it doesn't mean to say it's going to work for someone else. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what people tend to do is, my product's the best one, it does it for everybody. And that's just nonsense, is that? It
Yeah.
can't possibly be true. It just can't be true.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And then the other thing is, if it's not working, and it generally does, well, what's happening there? Is that a deficiency? Because we know that in some cases, deficiencies can be bridged by frequency technologies. We can hypothesize in that case, there's a little gap, say, in a hormone or enzyme production process, which can be bridged by putting energy into the body, but not always. So, and we do know as well, it's quite common knowledge and common sense that there are certain categories of illnesses which are caused by deficiencies, but equally there's toxic events and there's potentially blockages and stuff like that. So this is where I think we need, if we want to really try and master the subject area, we need to understand A, no one's an absolute master of everything. B, there's a mastery mindset, which is I'm open, I'm always learning, I'm always improving my hypothesis. And I want to sort of look at a bigger picture outside just my kit to try and stack the odds in the favor of that person. Um, yeah, I wish I could say, there's one,
One
golden
size fits
ticket.
all. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
also to throw into that mix, obviously everybody's got a different diet. Everyone comes into contact with different environmental toxins, so
yeah.
nobody's going to work exactly the same anyway. And I've had conversations with people say about vitamin C. I know the benefit that it's brought me, but I've had the odd person say that it hasn't done that for them. But then I question them and say, "Well, are you doing this?" Well, no. Are you doing that? Then no. Well, you can't equate it as the same. Um, because you're not doing the stuff around it that make it work better. And
Exactly. And is it even real vitamin C? Because this is something I sort of unpack a little bit in the second book, which is a lot of the minerals and vitamin, supplements and things like that are actually byproducts of the petrochemical industry. So they're not really derived from natural organic products. And at least, chemically they might look identical, but energetically, are they the same? And then there's other things, like cofactors, because, without like things like quercetin for zinc, for example, all we're doing is making expensive urine. So, we're wasting our time a bit.
yeah, it's yeah, you've got to be also you've got to be able to absorb the whatever you're doing, whether it's light or it's food or supplementation as well.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And on the light stuff, so for example, this is another complication of the area. We've got an absolutely outstanding. I think it's probably world class. And it's been banned as well, although it was the first one approved by the FDA for home use, laser. And we know from using that and other technologies that the dosage can vary 60-fold for an individual. So there's really important implications for that. But more than that, there's something called a biphasic switch response, which means, first of all, let's say you're the man in the desert, you haven't drunk for, 24 hours kind of thing. Well, a thimbleful of water is going to help, but it's not really going to help very much. So we need to get on this side of the curve where we're having, enough treatment, which is not just the right frequencies in this case, but the amount of energy that we're getting to make a quick result. But then we come to the top of the curve, which is like the optimum, and if you like. So there's a minimum bit for really being effective. Then there's an optimum, which is also the maximum. But the problem then is if we go over the top of that, actually the treatment is undone. And if we keep going, then we can actually drop into damage, which is oxidative stress, which is chemicals being released, damaging the cell membranes and the DNA even. So just to put this into context, this is why there's a really good side to having very powerful kit that works really quickly, but also we need to be careful about it. So when my baby daughter, was teething, it took 10 seconds of treatment for her to be relieved of pain and all the rest of it. So, and she's not going to tell us that. So we need to have methodology to understand this. But a stronger laser, and this is a relatively low powered laser, then we could have skipped right through that really quickly. I could have missed the correct response. I could have gone, okay, well, she needs more, kept treating her, and actually ended up causing her harm. Whereas that was 10 seconds. When she was about 2 years of age, she needed 3 cycles of the laser, which is about 9 to 10 minutes for a hornet sting on the finger. Now, after that time, it was completely undone, no pain, no inflammation, no after effects. But that factor of a 60-fold difference in dosage is pretty significant. So what it means is low-powered kit. Yeah, we can also almost use it, at will because it's only going to have a very, very slow effect. But the problem with the high-powered kit is then we can overtreat, and we can even overtreat by treating, the same amount, for example, in 24 hours or 3 days later or something. So there's all sorts of little subtle bits of understanding to bring into this. And if not, to go, okay, I'm going to just play it safe. I'm going to do just a little bit and have enough separation between these treatments in the knowledge that this is quite powerful and we're going to be stepping up the body's capacity each time until we can get it actually through its own self-healing threshold, in which case, it's done and all the symptoms are away, etc.
One thing I'm an advocate of is setting up if you've got chronic illness, setting up your own home clinic, if you like. And this type of equipment is one, it lasts for a long time. So once you've bought this, yeah, you could say things like ozone generators and things like that are all expensive stuff. But once you start collecting these over a period of years, if you like, you've now got your own home clinic that you can rely on. So if your kids are ill or something happens to you, one of your pets even, you've got something there to look after them. It gives you a strength. It gives you strength, I think, because the world is wanting to attack us constantly, whether we like to think that or not. And I'm not a paranoid person, but it's trying to make you ill because that's how the pharmaceutical industry continues.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. So having that stuff at home, I think is is so powerful. And the other thing then is that if you've got it, well, why not help? Not just family, but friends and stuff like that. And if people get, very, very fast results from this kit, then they're absolutely going to tell other people. But this is the other sort of benefit if you are in that situation is here's the problem. It's really hard to be a prophet in your own land. It's sometimes your nearest and dearest who are the most difficult and the most skeptical. And that's really where, my first book came in with, okay, well, let's bang a load of photos and x-rays and stuff right at the front of the book because it's easier for people if they can see sort of ranges of results from other people, in a book kind of thing to go, all right, well, maybe there's something in this. But it also has to answer the normal question, which is if it's this good, why doesn't everyone know about it? So all those sorts of answers are tucked into that book.
there's another one. Why doesn't the NHS use it if they're that good? We get that with ozone and
Yeah.
other therapies and things like that because they don't want you well. That's the simple answer.
Yeah,
Um,
and part of it is that they're not trained in this stuff and they don't know because a lot of this technology is not necessarily new. The soft lasers have been around since the 1980s. There are tens of thousands of studies into this stuff, but most doctors are simply not trained in this. They're not aware, and unless someone brings it to their attention, they don't know about it. So we've got this combination of bias in terms of, well, we can sponsor information, studies, publicity around them, and stuff like that. And also just ignorance, which is if I don't know about it, how can I know about it kind of thing. So, but I think the world is changing underneath them because a lot of people have had experiences like you and I have had, Dom, and they're concerned about allopathic medicine and all the rest of it. And so I think this, I was reading a market research report on this saying that frequency healing is due to explode. It's like digital imaging was in the late 90s, and it's due to grow tenfold in the next 10 years. So I think a lot of people are going to get awareness that they're going to start to move into the area. But that's really, back to the sort of first book is okay, what do you want to do? Ask the right questions, get something, learn how to use it properly, get some results, and then you can decide, if you want to go deeper. But
I've
yeah,
got a laser. It's called Thor lasers. It's made by that same company that made the red light bed.
mm,
And I remember one of the chaps across the road. His son had been playing football, did his ankle in, came down the steps on crutches.
yeah,
I used the laser around his ankle on a protocol, and then I used the red light as well. And he walked out and played football the day after.
yeah,
And his dad were like, are you are you trained in this? Are you like a doctor? He didn't know what I've only just moved here and I saw him on crutches. And I said, no, I did get certified for this equipment, but I'm not trained health practitioner.
yeah,
And he said, that's bloody, you were amazed anyway. And that works in a similar way to the lasers that you're talking about there that you used on your daughter. I've seen them work so many times. It's I've forgotten how many times I've worked from my son, my eldest son, he plays a lot of sport, to my daughter, to my daughter when she's had headaches or things like that, to my
mm,
wife. I remember my wife having mastitis when she was breastfeeding. I found the frequency
yeah,
for mastitis, which is a backup in the breasts. I don't know why I just did that, but I did. Uh,
yeah,
and it stopped her having to have antibiotics. Um,
yeah.
uh, relieved it within 5 minutes. She could feel the difference.
Absolutely. And antibiotics are a problem in that situation because, your young child is taking in all sorts of beneficial substances, stem cells, other things, through the breast milk. So there's this relationship with the mother in terms of boosting up the immune system. So if the next thing you're doing is supplying antibiotics to cut swathes through gut flora and the biome of the body, then that's a not a great solution.
No, and that's why it's good to have these tools, health weapons, if you like, that can give you the control of your own health. So you're not having to knock on the doctor's
Yeah.
door every time you feel a bit grim or feel poorly. Um, and
Yeah, mate. Let me share an example. I've got loads of these because I've treated, over 1,000 people, but my own. So I'm out in Austria, Keep Health Space in Austria. I slipped on icy stone steps one Christmas, smashed 5 ribs, and I mean completely, shattered. So there were like gaps in the ribs. There was little bits off to one side. They were looking like Christmas crackers, kind of thing in cartoons which had been pulled, and so I ended up then I punctured along, so I had to go to a hospital in that situation, and I grabbed my two favourite tools. 'Cause this is the beauty of this kit is, as well, because I've seen people, with estate cars laden with kit. I can fit these things one in each pocket, kind of thing. So I took the laser and I took the ENS, and so I was treating myself in hospital. The next day, I was coming off the painkillers. In fact, the look on the nurse's face when they were wheeling around the drugs was just a treat. And I was in a room, it was next to the nursing station with a lady with Alzheimer's, so she was gibbering all night, and keeping me awake. So I did take a painkiller and a sleeping tablet at night because the sleep is so important. But basically, I almost came off the pills completely straight away, and at the 5 week mark, I went for, an X-ray for confirmation. And normally what happens is that you end up with like a rugby ball shaped thing around a healing bone called a callus. And in this case, the bones were just sort of nice and smooth and curved like that, straightened out probably by now. And the doctor just looked at this, and I could see the look on his face. It was a treat. And I don't bother explaining this stuff because they don't know. If they do know, then they don't want to know, kind of thing. And he just looked, and he turns to me and he goes, "That's an old injury." Well, there you go. You've seen the X-rays, the progression over the last 5 weeks, kind of thing, and I knew that it wasn't. So, very, very dramatic sort of results that we can have on this. Obviously, not just on pain, but in terms of healing and regeneration and stuff like that as well. And then there's other bits we chip in. So this kit is almost the opposite of bioresonance diagnostics. So you're talking about specific frequencies for particular problems before, and but that came out of the Russian space medicine program. So what's opposite about this is this just helps the body to restore its own homeostasis. It's not diagnosing or identifying viruses, parasites, bacteria, and fungi, unlike the bioresonance diagnostics. But then we also include things like colloidal silver and cold nebulizers. So I ended up then a couple of weeks later, because your lung function is impaired if you've got 5 shattered ribs and you've had a punctured lung,
yeah,
and so I went down with pleurisy. In fact, had no pain, but I put a little bit of colloidal silver into a cold nebulizer because this is dirt cheap. I love sharing the dirt cheap stuff with people that works really well. I was wheezing, I was wheezing like mad. I put this on my face, was inhaling it for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, my lungs were completely clear. It went away and it didn't come back.
and I know people are thinking, oh, that I've seen these things happen. I've seen people come in chronic pain and have a treatment of ozone or high dose vitamin C or use a
Yeah.
laser or I've only felt the scalar on myself. I've not done treatments for other people on scalar, but I know what these things work like, and the relief is astounding. Um, on and my wife broke her ankle, sorry, a foot, and her healing time was probably 50% of what it would have normally been, had she
Yeah.
not been using red light and lasers on it, and we were using the scalar wave on a foot, and yeah, I've seen so many times. I can't remember. Where can people find your stuff? I can't believe we've been talking 45 minutes, gone in a blink. Where can
Yeah,
people find you?
keep health research. Keephealthresearch.org is our website. We've also got a channel on YouTube that's very small at the moment. We've got a couple of the videos, in fact, from our training course on our website as well. And what we try and do there is, I hate this thing of going onto American type websites where you've got to read 30 pages of A4 to try and work out what something does. So we try and keep it very, very punchy and very brief, but also not a huge range of products either. They're quite sort of carefully chosen and stuff that will sort of integrate together. So we try not to sort of overwhelm people with information. So yeah, keephealthresearch.org. Yeah.
Right. Well, okay. Well, we normally do about 45 minutes. I think we've hit that bell now. But well, I'm going to be talking to you about this at some point, probably buying one. I've got a few stuff I need to sort out, and maybe going through some training as well. So we can maybe do an update when that happens in the next few months as well. We've got
Oh, mate, I'd love to.
three
What
nurses
happened?
that work for us that'll be very interested in this type of thing as well, being trained on it for clients and things, either before or after ozone therapies for clients.
Yeah, mate, and I'd encourage people to look through just the read sample section of frequency healing. One quick example is a 91-year-old woman with Alzheimer's, blood blister on the finger, time-stamped images, 10-minute treatment with the ENS. The photograph was taken just over an hour later, completely gone, as if it had never been there in the first place. We've got some really dramatic, quite fascinating pictures in there, and I think that's going to be a treat for people to look at. But also, Dom, I'm back, every couple of months or so in the UK, and I'd be quite delighted to come up and visit you and maybe have a beer as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't actually drink. The strongest I
Well, you
drink is
can
tea.
watch me.
Yeah. I watch you
We can
drink.
play pool. You can drink
Yeah.
tea. You can drink
My
tea, and I can have a beer.
my brother drinks for me.
Oh, good. Bring him along.
Yeah. But well, thanks for joining me today, Mike. It's been great chatting, and I'll put all the videos on the end of this that have been playing throughout our talk today, so people can get a gist of what the actual things are that you've been talking about.
Cool, Dom. It's an absolute pleasure, and the time has flown, and I'll be happy to talk with you again anytime. Thank you.
Cheers. Welcome to the Feelgood Factor podcast. Now please welcome your host, Dom Watterson.